Hello everybody, welcome to day 3 of Discover Your Emotions using essential oils. How are you finding this? How are you finding this exploration and supporting using these essential oils? Do drop me a comment. Let me know how you're getting on. If there's anything that you want to talk about, anything that's coming up for you. Even if you're not feeling anything, you're not resonating with the oils, or something feels not quite right, or you're having these deep, profound experiences, let me know about that too. It's really beautiful when we get to share these experiences together and to allow this stuff to support us in this way. I find it truly transformational. Today we're going to talk about cardamom and how cardamom can support us with our emotions. And cardamom is not really an oil that gets talked a lot about when supporting emotions, but I think it's one of the most important ones and is definitely always part of my toolkit, and I'll explain why in a minute. But there's two things that I want to do first. The first is, if you have got cardamom, get out this beautiful and incredible ancient spice. And I'm going to do it along with you. I've got my cardamom, and you can dilute it to about 25 to 50%. You don't have to use it neat out of the bottle like this. And this goes for all of the essential oils. And oils like jasmine and neroli, the 4 floral ones, rose, you can dilute to 10%. And if you're using a doTERRA one, they're normally already coming with fractionated coconut oil, unless you've bought the version neat. So you don't have to dilute those ones unless you wish to. It doesn't reduce the potency. It doesn't make them any less. It doesn't make it any less able to connect to the oils. It's just, for some people, they have very sensitive skin. And actually, in this case, more is not more. Less is definitely more. Okay, so the two things are, the first is, I would like you to bring the bottle into your hands and just smell the bottle. Close your eyes and smell. Just sit with it for a moment. And then, what do you smell? What comes up for you? Does it feel warm? Does it feel cool? Does it feel nourishing? What does that feel like? And you don't have to put words to it. If it's just a sensation, stay with that. That's good. You don't have to do anything else with it. But I want you to start to connect these oils without using the mind. Like, I'm going to give you information, but that takes us right into the mind. What I want to really keep encouraging you to do is have an experience with these oils. Allow them to talk to you, allow them to communicate with you on a completely different level, rather than just understanding them mentally. So just keep smelling. Does it feel comforting? Does it take you somewhere? Do you see any pictures or images in your head? Are you on a boat crossing the seas, carrying the spices in ancient times? Or does it make you think of warm food that has been cooked for you at some point? Or does it feel uncomfortable and not very supportive at this time? And we're going to apply the aroma point in a little bit, but just sit with that for a moment. If you need to pause this, if you want to take some time just to sit with it, that's a really good practice. And when you're working with children, you don't need to apply it directly to their skin. The benefits that I'm going to share with you today about cardamom work just as well in a diffuser, especially when you pair them with something. And this is quite a sweet spice to my nose, If you wanted to add them with wild orange or something like that, that can be really uplifting and warming. All of it feels really, really warming. And you can add lemon to it too, or some sort of citrus. So just keep that in mind, that that might be something that you want to pair together to enhance the flavors. Actually, peppermint is really lovely for that, for clarity, for concentration, things like that. But experiment. There are no right or wrong ways of using these oils, especially when we're using them in the diffuser. So just see what calls to you, see if you can get creative with these oils and see what comes up for you. And your kids will, if you're working with children in a setting, or your own children, they'll immediately tell you if they're like, oh, that smells so nice, or no, that's not nice at all. But what I'd recommend is less is more again. Children have very, very sensitive noses, and so do animals, as you can probably hear through the microphone. So just keep that as a consideration. Cardamom is an ancient spice. It's a warming spice. It's all about digestion, and emotionally, spiritually, it helps with digesting life. It really works with the small intestine, the kidneys as well, and just eliminating, moving, digesting is such an integral part to this oil, this spice's desire and design. It was so revered in China in the, I think it was the, I'm going to get this wrong, so I'm not going to say it, I can't remember, one of the dynasties. It was traded as equal to gold because it was seen as such an important part of the health benefits were revered. And in it's referred to in ancient Sanskrit texts as well, just like frankincense. These are really important cultural parts of the world that have been included into our lives for such a long time. And for those of us who are on our journey to rediscovering these spices, these oils, these the medicine of the earth, it can feel like a rediscovery. Maybe it's dislodging something in your mind or your heart that you like, do you know what, I really recognize that from somewhere. It's like an ancient memory that comes back. Oh yes, this is how we use it. This is what we do with it. This feels familiar on some level. And it's likely for lifetimes we've all been using these spices in our cooking, in our healthcare, in our connection, and spiritually and emotionally to help us digest life. It's got such a soothing, it's almost like a balm, a soothing nature within its exotic nature as well. But the soothing is what it's like a water or some sort of very soothing balm that gets put on a fire or nervousness or anxiety or overwhelm. So today's topic is about fatigue and nervousness. And when we're in the society that we live in now, we are indoctrinated to be very busy, hyper busy, always doing something, always never bored, never allowing ourselves to have that free time, that space. And what that does is it creates a nervousness in many of us. Some of us thrive in that space, but many of us don't, and we can feel very fatigued by it, very on edge. And you know, this is the same sort of thing as the school holidays as we're in now. For many of us, that is a time where we feel there's an expectation to be busy, an expectation to keep the children entertained and occupied. And that in itself can create a sort of on-edge nervousness and fatigue that can come with it too. And when things are going at a pace that feels uncomfortable for us, it can mean that we struggle to digest life. And so the digestion slows down, or the digestion stops working, or maybe we're eating food that's needs time and care and slowness to digest, and yet we're on the go all of the time. And so it can cause constipation, it can cause discomfort in the bowel area. And if you're somebody who suffers with IBS or something like that, then you'll know that there are certain things like peppermint that get offered to you to help you with the digestion, but cardamom is one of those as well. It's really good to unwind. It's sort of, imagine it, stress and nervousness and fatigue are almost like a contraction. They squeeze together. And what cardamom does, and imagine when you're trying to digest, the stomach is constantly, the intestines are constantly pulsing, but sometimes it can feel uncomfortable and over pulses and over tightens, and you can feel maybe a bit nauseous, or not hungry, or hungry all the time, something like that. And cardamom comes in to unwind, to relax, to soothe, to remind us that it's okay to slow down a little bit and have that space to digest life. So one of my favorite ways to use cardamom is on CV4. So when you find your belly button, and it's about 1.5 inches underneath your belly button, maybe 2 inches, depending on how tall you are. And this is the place where you can either use the aroma point therapy practice, which is by putting a little drop of the oil on a finger and placing it on the CV4 point, or with a carrier oil, you can put some in, warm up the hands by rubbing them together, and then place either one hand or both hands over your stomach and hold it here and just feel the warmth coming from your hands into your stomach to allow the digestion, to help it, to release it, to let it go. And CV4 is called the gate of origin. So if you imagine that this is the place where creativity happens, the place where ease happens, the place where life force starts. And what cardamom does along with CV4 is it strengthens the life force within us. It brings back that desire, the passion for life. If you're feeling lethargic or overwhelmed or fatigued, it can give you a pep up. It can help you find a little bit more life within you, especially if you're feeling apathetic as well. And it works with children on that kind of level too. So if you're dealing with children who have got to that point during the summer holidays when they're absolutely bored out of their brains, or they're struggling, they're apathetic, or they've been on the computer for quite a while and they come off and they're like, oh my God, everything's so boring. I don't want to do anything. Or, you know, when you're a teenager and everything feels like it's hard work. Everything feels like, what's the point? I don't want to do it. You can bring cardamom in for support, and either in the diffuser or combine it with the effect of nourishing and strengthening that chi, that life force, through CV4. You don't have to hold it there on that point. You can just put your hands one on top of the other or next to each other and cradle that area too. That works just as well. But if you rub a little bit onto the CV4 area, onto your stomach area, you will find that it starts to help you unwind and release tension. And it's really soothing before bedtime as well, especially if you're overtired and on edge and tensed out. Then using this will help all of those places and spaces to unwind. And if you add that in with wild orange on the bottom of your feet or in the diffuser, that really is beautiful. So those two things are really effective for sleep. Add in vetiver and you'll be gone in a minute. It is definitely one of the oils that trilogy of oil is so powerful for me. So that was point one. Point two is I've got a couple of questions for you. And these are really deep contemplations, and they probably sound quite trivial when I share them with you, but they're actually really, really deep. And the reason that they're important is because as a society, we're reinforced over and over again that these kind of things are not okay to have. We don't consider ourselves, we don't take care of our own needs. To do that is a selfish thing. I'm sure you've heard people talk about this before, but you know, what I know to be true is that we don't learn something the first time we hear it. We need to hear it from multiple sources in many different ways until maybe we find it convincing enough and compelling enough to go, oh, hang on, maybe they've got a point. So I want to really encourage you to think about meeting your needs and thinking about your needs and what do you want. So 2 questions I want to ask you today, and I want you to have these as a daily contemplation. Okay, so the first is, how are you feeling? Ask yourself today, how am I feeling? And if you're somebody who has really struggled with connecting to your feelings, maybe you feel numb, maybe you're not sure how you feel, draw something. It doesn't have to be a verbal or a mental experience. It can be get a piece of clay and mold it with your fingers into what it feels like you feel like today, or draw something with some pen and paper. And you can do this with the children. They really love it. They have a much better and easier time to create something visual and kinetic and just tactile from their emotions than we do, because it's still not hasn't been that connection between their emotions hasn't been severed just yet. And then question number 2 is, so question number 1 is, what do I feel? How do I feel? Question number 2 is, what do I need? What do I need today? Is it 5 minutes alone in the car? Is it I need to ask somebody to help me for a few minutes so that I can have some quiet time? Is it possibly the most important thing that you need to go to bed at 8 o'clock with the kids so that you have some decent sleep, so that tomorrow you feel much more rested and much more able to deal with everything that's coming your way? I know for myself that when I'm overtired and on edge, the greatest reset for me is to go to bed early and to get some beautifully decent sleep. And I'm like a different person the following day. My mindset's different, my habits are different, my thoughts are different, my relationships are different. And we always underplay the power of sleep, but this is super, super, super important. If you've got any questions about any of the things that we've discussed today and that I've shared with you, please do reach out to me. There's so much more that we can explore and learn and discover here with these oils. But if there was one thing that I would like you to take away today, is to practice. Just have an experience. Keep practicing every day with these oils and create that experience. And if something comes up and you're not sure what to do with it, reach out to me and I would be delighted to give you some feedback or support you or ask you good questions. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day. Take care, and I'll see you tomorrow. Lots of love.